All right. Whoa, that is super loud. Okay. Hey, all right. Why is it so loud compared to everything else? I don't know how the audio works, all this crazy program. Turn that part off. That I understand. Turn this part on. Go. Hey, look at that. It sort of works. How you doing? Hold on. I'm straightening this guy out. There you go. All right. I still don't have enough green screen room, but I'm trying. Oh, there's an echo. Check one. Check. Is that better? There you go. Slightly more reasonable. No echo. Okay. That's all right. Not quite in a cave. A little better? A little better? Yeah. I need to do some major pruning on this, but of course, this is the week that I'm doing Sexy Liberal. It's this Saturday night, by the way, sexyliberal.com/tour for tickets. It's our live comedy show that we can do in quarantine. And since it looks like, according to normal human guidelines for the behavior that we all hope people will partake in, that we're gonna be on our own for the holiday season. So I'm planning a Christmas special for you guys, and more than likely a Thanksgiving dinner with you guys. So if you're stuck at home and you got there's no relative you can go see because everybody's quarantined, you don't have the access to a test or any of that kind of stuff, or you don't trust the ones you do have access to, which is kind of the issue. Elon Musk. We see you. All right. But over the course of this, I would like to say, for the record, that I'm going to have a kind of, I'll cook some food, and it won't be a tremendous amount of food, because obviously I can't share it with you without smashing my fork into my iPad. But we'll gather around upstairs and around the kitchen counter / diner dinner table area, and I'm gonna cook a field roast, vegan field roast, and that kind of stuff, and some yams and that kind of stuff, and just hang out. So if you got someplace to go, good on you. If you don't have someplace to go, we're gonna hang out. We'll do some. I'm wearing my C.T. Fletcher shirt today in honor of the man. I have been, again, this is a factor of finding all this stuff that's been in storage. So many of my shirts that I wore all the time, every day, were always, were packed away and deep sixed and all this kind of stuff. I am not currently vegan. However, I default to a more vegetarian lifestyle certain days of the week, and I provide for my girlfriend, who's vegetarian, and her son, who doesn't eat a tremendous amount of. There's no sound. How is there no sound? Is everyone hearing me okay? Some people are saying no sound, but that might because they need to reload their page or something. Because I hear you guys, you can obviously respond to what I'm saying, so clearly something's going on. Hold on one second. So we've been having a bit of show and tell lately. And I feel bad if I don't have something to show and tell in all this. And there's so much stuff. It's a little ridiculous, quite frankly. I've got, right now, everything is torn apart and it's all wigs and craziness. I'll show you this. So this is some classic Hal stuff. I'm coming back. I went in the other room. I'm coming back. I'm wireless, so I can go all about. Here's some, you want to see some classic little Hal stuff? This goes way back. See this guy? This is an R2-D2 pillow with a squeak thing in it. And I have had this. I've had this since I was 7. Yeah. 7 years old. Yeah. And its legs move, but there's a little piece of Velcro to keep them from going, So this was, your dogs are going crazy? I'm sorry. I blame myself. No, that's wrong. So, so yes, I've had this, and it is a bit stained, I will have to say, because as a sickly little child, I'm pretty sure I barfed on it more than once. I had two. I'll find the book too. I had two favorite items that were always with me in my bed. One was this little guy, and the other was a book on how everything was made. It's like got stuff about dinosaurs, stuff about geology, stuff about you know the gunpowder, fireworks, how paint was made. It was like an encyclopedia, like a little one for kids. Yeah, it was like a how things work book, and I would sleep with it like this book and read it all the time. I mean, it says a lot, and I would like sleep on it like this, my book. And I was really sick at one time, and I barfed all over the cover of it, but I didn't want to lose my book, so my mom just went and cleaned it up and gave it back to me. So, anyways, this guy has made it quite a long time. Yeah. So there's our two. That's our show and tell for today. Why not? Why not? Yeah, it has a lot. I mean, obviously, I was a curious child. Don't stop, Siri. I don't need to talk to you right now. So anybody remember who Jay Sekulow is? Anybody? Anybody? Does anybody understand? Anybody remember who Jay Sekulow was? Here's the Jay Sekulow. Yeah, he's a lawyer. He was was he Trump's personal lawyer for a while? The idea? Yeah, he was the lead attorney during the impeachment trial. He did not the rest of the time, but he brought him on to do that. And largely because is he a Christian lawyer? That's adorable. Because he's convinced that the votes that they found in Fulton County are going to be the turning point in the certification of Georgia. If we could find one drive with some votes on it, why wouldn't we find tens of thousands? Well, largely because when they found those, they did an audit. And in the audit, they found that there aren't any more voters. So you got your voter registration, then you got your ballot, and then if they don't link up, it's either a new registration based on the ballot or a verification of a registration that exists in the state rolls that doesn't match up with a ballot, which gets rejected, and you can maybe get provisional or something like that. Anyways, so this is he was the impeachment lawyer for Trump. He was the guy who ran lead counsel on this. Do you understand how terrible you have to be to fall so far that you're Donald Trump's lawyer at some point? But secondly, let's see if this guy goes up here. 1 second. Secondly, to be replaced by Rudy Giuliani. So I'm just kind of giving you a couple of clips today of stuff because I got to do a short show today because I got to go back to filming for Sexy Liberal. So it'll be a tight one today. And that'll keep my computer also from overheating with this software that seems to be it's a little harder on my system than Streamlabs was before it ate shit. So, Hal, have you heard of the rockets shot at the Iraq embassy? One child died and a few people injured. I don't think that we should pull out troops. No damage to the embassy. Well, they did that because they knew, because we announced it. And again, this is why most of the time you don't announce it. You create a strategy and you only announce it if there is something to fill the void. See what I mean? Like I'm gonna leave, but to make sure you guys don't become complete assholes, thank you. Tip jar offerings no matter what short stream. Thank you, Templeton Zarat. Bless you and keep you. Where's Oh, God. I get the loudest audio in my ears from this thing, and I'm not quite sure why. Anyways, so over the let's see, let's move that over there, and then I thought I had created a tip jar for this fellow. In here somewhere. Here, we'll try this fellow. See if this doesn't crash the whole thing. Angela, look at that. Carrie. My goodness, this is a very big. This is a lot of digital business going on. My goodness gracious. I'll move this little fellow over here so it doesn't take up so much space and make so much noise that it interferes with what we're doing, but it's lovely. Thank you. So Sekulow has been replaced by Rudy Giuliani, which has gotta hurt. It really does. And let's see. Let me hop over here and make that smaller. And let's just grab a couple of because I know you guys see this stuff come up on Twitter, and I know you see referential articles written about the argument that is being made by Rudy Giuliani in court. And there's this news story that he's like, well, we're not really losing. We're just prepping for the Supreme Court. I'm coming in here intending to lose just so we can bounce it up to where we know we've got control of the place. I have news for Trump and Giuliani. At no point is the Supreme Court going to hand any of Trump's team a win on this nonsense. Sorry. I have my that's not Jay Sekulow. The other guy, he's talking to Jay. That's his other co-host. We'll get there in a moment. See how it says down here, Jay Sekulow. We'll get to there in a second. I would go so far to say that Amy Coney Barrett will either recuse herself or simply rule against the argument that they're making because it is clearly and fundamentally unconstitutional and a bunch of ridiculous nonsense. Yes, they are grasping at straws. This is ridiculous. Even Trump doesn't believe this. Mark Meadows had a gathering with staff going, guys, it's been lovely, but to quote Doug the Head, fuck off. So yeah, here we go. Whoops. Why is there no audio from that? Back up. Why is there no? I don't understand. Hold on one moment. That is the. Oh, I see. That's why I did. My bad. I did that. It was my fault. I did that. It was wrong. I swapped the wrong audio off. All right, this one.
2,600 votes on a thumb drive that were never counted.
2,600 votes on a thumb drive that were not. And look, just because there's a disease going around and I am clearly congested does not mean that I can't share a microphone with a bunch of people that have comorbidities.
Counted and cast legally were found. The thumb drive.
Now, to be fair, I don't know if this dude always sounds like this.
Drive was never entered into the computer to be tabulated. Out of those 2,600 votes, guess who won the most? Donald Trump. He won 1,800 of them. So a net gain of 800. This also, think about this, how could this impact the Purdue Senate race, where he was very close not to being in a runoff with John Ossoff? And so will these votes...
Nope.
Remember, this is not part of a recount.
No, it's an audit.
These are new votes that were on the thumb drive. Should they be put in the official tally now?
Here's the problem. This isn't a...
Okay. All right. We have to discuss why Jay Sekulow is dressed like a Tom Jones impersonator. Maybe it's cold in the studio. Maybe they're not paying for paying their bills there and they need it all to go to lighting. Yeah, it is. It's not unusual to get. So, I don't know what this ensemble situation is going. I don't know. Hal and Al Franken sound very much alike. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, my voice is basically a cross between Al Franken and Harrison Ford. So I can choose between the two. I don't know. I'm just making it up as I go along. You guys go to Sunday school? All right. So this is Alive at the Sands tonight. Unless shark bites. That's Jay Sekulow. That is Donald Trump's impeachment lawyer. I'm not kidding. Did this not? Is this frozen? What's happening? This little page thing? Is it just not? Oh yeah, no, it's working. Oh, thanks. That's very sweet. Is that chiming in everyone's ear, driving everyone crazy? Just making sure. I don't want to make everyone completely nuts. Nope. Okay, good. All right. So, in terms of, the legal argument's one thing. This outfit is an entirely different thing. I don't understand what's happening. This is the guy you'd see at karaoke on Wednesday night, any place with a free buffet, right?
In a recount,
You get him really drunk and he starts trying to do bow with the bow.
and we found a net plus 800 for Trump.
No.
This was, we found ballots that we have never found before. These
Dun, dun, dun.
ballots did not exist before. And now
That's right. And they were in a Trump-heavy county. Why didn't that county put him in? That county's a pro-Trump county. I got news for you, buddy. If you're going to start finding other drives laying around, you're going to start finding them in the blue districts, and that's what's going to screw the pooch for you.
now we are plus 800 for the president. So what does that tell you? What is
That, yeah, this suit is a lawsuit. Somebody needs to call the fashion police.
That means that you've got to really dig deep into all of this because something's just not right in the process.
Yeah, what was not right is that one flash drive was not loaded into the tabulator, but the votes themselves were counted.
And I think what we have to be clear here is
Yeah, let's be clear. What are we being clear about?
that's why when people say, this is a futile effort, or why are you doing this? Precisely for this reason. And by the way, as Jordan just said, it could be outcome determinative on the Purdue race.
These are people who were completely
Oh my God, what happened to him? Did he get hit by a laser and turned old? This is, by the way, I appreciate purple walls. I really do. And I'm digging, the cabinet behind him, though, looks like it's a secret passage to a crawl space where he's keeping Cub Scouts.
disenfranchised had the ballots not been found, and who would not have had an opportunity to cast their vote for president and for secretary of for the United States Senate races with Kelly Loeffler and David Perdue. This is unforgivable.
Yeah, the dude stepped down.
How many of those thumb drives exist?
How many of those thumb drives are there? If there's one, there must be 40. And if there's 40, they must all be very Trump-heavy districts. And if there's 40 in very Trump-heavy districts, then clearly, if you do the math, in Georgia, Trump won Arizona.
Exist in America. How
How many of these thumb drives exist in America? Jesus. Let's see. I don't know. I have some. How many thumb drives do I have laying around? Christ almighty. Most of mine are plugged in right now, Thanks. It's hard to read the shirt if I don't, because I'm not in my stool. So I have to lean. This is like a dentist chair. I got to figure out how to straighten this thing out.
How
too.
many of those thumb drives
How many of the thumb drives? Guys, has anybody seen my spray?
exist in Michigan and Georgia?
How many of those? How do we know a thumb drive isn't why the dinosaurs died?
Georgia and Nevada and Arizona and
And yeah!
Wisconsin and Pennsylvania. Because if one in a medium to small size county in Georgia had 2,600 on it, 1,800 of which were for Donald Trump, by the way, then this election could be in a totally different place.
We're going to have to get into
I'm digging the intercuts, guys. How much air did you cut out of this shit? Seriously, these crossfades are extraordinary.
when this is over. Voter integrity issues nationally, because this is a serious problem. I mean,
Oh.
it is a really serious.
By the way, How many of you are really actually here for Republicans all of a sudden giving a shit about vote integrity? I mean, have we not? Who, which party puts forward election integrity bills and tries to create a uniform system wherein everything can be verified and protected from foreign influence and receipts and paper ballots everywhere and all that? Who does that? Who brings that to the floor, and who stops it from getting a vote? I'll give you 3 guesses, and the first 2 don't count.
Serious problem. You've got 2,600. I'm sure that's the tip of the iceberg.
Of course it is. Why wouldn't it be? Clearly, I can look at this video. I have not watched your other videos, but judging from that jacket, clearly everything you wear is made out of felt.
Votes that were never counted.
What is happening in Nevada as we speak to combat that signature matching problem?
Part of the problem going forward to combat the current crisis that we have is that all of the ballots and all of the envelopes are controlled.
Oh my god. How many friggin' batteries does this thing run through? Good god. Sorry guys, hold on. Ever since, hello, that's much better, hello, fixed it, hello, mic check, fixed it, I was fixing it, I know that, I was fixing it, you guys are 2 minutes behind me, I was already fixing it, alright, I'm fine, you find it, are you here, okay, hello, am I very loud, is it a sound off you can't hear, you still can't hear me, you can hear the video's audio but you can't hear me, I see, this is moments late. Excellent. I got this stuff down. I fixed it. Honestly, he looks like if somebody found 1987 Peter Weller in a log in a swamp.
Controlled by the government, by the Clark County officials. Just yesterday, Clark County officials threw out an entire race that was on the ballot. The same ballot that had Trump.
You mean a local race? Because the standards are different?
Trump and Biden on the ballot.
No, they threw the race out. They didn't throw the ballots out.
One of the county commissioner races.
Because the guy was registering people to vote, and anybody who voted, any of those people, they threw those parts out. Anybody who was registered and they were fake.
Was thrown out because Clark County officials, which are completely,
if we're talking about the same race,
controlled by the Democrats, they decided that this one particular county commissioner race was too close and the fraud was too widespread. And so they threw out this one county commissioner race.
Uh-huh. So in a nationwide election where millions of people cast their vote, we are supposed to scuttle an entire election in the state of Illinois and the surrounding states and any pivotal state so that Donald Trump can win because a county commissioner's race was thrown out because the commissioner, the guy actually running, committed so much fraud.
And said we're going to have to revote.
You understand what Rick just said, folks. In
Yeah.
Clark County, Nevada, they've already thrown out one of the races because
They threw out one of the races, guys.
they said there's too much fraud. And yet,
Yeah, a local race. Standards are different. It wasn't fraud in the vote. They threw it out because of the corruption in the, well, whatever.
and yet they
I mean, this is ridiculous.
don't want to. I mean, yet we're having to challenge in court.
Later today, we will.
Why can you guys not let a single sentence breathe? What is the attention span of your viewer base? Look, I know you guys are locked in. I love you guys because you guys can even hang in there when my mic dies and I have to go throw batteries in it myself. But what must be the viewership of this ridiculous show that these are their edits?
We will file another case which picks up
Who's we?
on the fact that the Clark County officials have thrown out 153,000 ballots in one race.
On one hand, they say this election for
Wait, where'd you come from? What's
county
happening?
commissioners,
He's back in the studio with Jay. All right.
it's corrupt, it's fraudulent, it's erroneous. But we can count the votes for President of the United States.
Okay, I'm gonna need to look this up because I'm in my own mind, and I think in a lot of your folks. Let's see, Nevada, Clark County. Whoops, not country. Commissioner race ballots thrown out. We'll call it that. I don't know. Let's see. Let's see. Trump and allies. Clark County calls for a revote in commission race decided by 10 ballots. Discrepancy. So this was very close. Okay, so this is the story. Okay, so here's this is Washington Post. I'm sure these guys believe the Washington Post. I'm sure they will take this as seriously as you and I do. In this in us talking about this particular thing. This I'm sure that they feel comfortable with me going into the story behind this. Hold on, I'm bringing up the page. Give me 1 second. This is their, again, you have to understand when you hear people arguing, and, thankfully a lot of us get to miss the, yeah, there we go. There you go. There you go. Trump and allies pitch yet another woeful voter fraud theory in Nevada. And by the way, let's see, what are you having? Ron Smalley, Donald Trump received a treatment of monoclonal and polyclonal antibodies from Regeneron. Yeah, hold on. As compassionate use, the church has procured the non-fetal treatments for a long time now, and he had access to those, but he did not refuse to use the human embryonic kidney epithelial cells from the harvest. Human stem cells are one of the many questionable processes, procedures, pharmaceutical energy, reinfection, very possible COVID-19, but use aborted baby serum for one infection. Will he continue to get Regeneron? Trump, Trump is of course not pro-life. He's paid for like 3 abortions. So there you go. Trump and allies pitch yet another woeful voter fraud theory in Nevada. This is the one they're talking about. This from me. President Trump and his allies' scattershot hunt for voter fraud appears to have landed on a new target, a race in Nevada that election officials have moved to redo because of ballot discrepancies. To hear Trump and his allies tell it, it's something amounting to a voter fraud smoking gun. As usual, the truth is far less compelling. Big victory moments ago in the state of Nevada, Trump tweeted, adding that the county commissioner race on the same ballot as president just thrown out because of large-scale voter discrepancy. Clark County officials do not have confidence in their own elections. Major impact. So Trump allies went further. Richard Grenell, that's the guy we were just watching, his former acting director of national intelligence, said late Monday that they just threw out 153,000 ballots for a county commissioner race because of fear of fraud. By Tuesday morning, he'd upped the ante even further and claimed it wasn't just fear of fraud. The argument is basically, if this result can't be trusted, how can the results in the presidential race be trusted? Nevada is one of the several closely decided states, and Trump campaign is pursuing legal action there. Trump and Grenell even alluded to the fact that the presidential race has also appeared on those ballots, apparently suggesting those votes are now in question too. The language they use, though, is highly misleading and sometimes demonstrably false. At issue is the race for Clark County Commissioner. Where 153 ballots were indeed cast, there are discrepancies with a very limited number of them, 139 to be exact. That represents less than 1/10 of 1% of the votes. The reason they have moved to redo the election is because the current margin of victory is also exceedingly small. Just 10 votes, or less than 1/100th of a percent. Election officials in Nevada have a history of holding redo special elections in smaller races when the results are so tight, and they may not have confidence that they can resolve the discrepancies. They did so most recently in a 2018 Republican primary for the county commission, in which the margin was 4 votes. 139 votes. So they are not throwing out 153,000 ballots. They are redoing an election for one particular position because there was a 10 vote difference between them, which would effectively be like the equivalent of triggering an automatic runoff in the case of a close election. The only one that qualified was the Clark County Commission in there. 139 ballots were questionable, and since it was 10 votes in that, 139 would make any difference if the difference in 153,000 was large. It just ain't. Most ain't. In other words, it's highly misleading to say that 153,000 votes are being thrown out. That makes it sound as though those ballots may be invalid. In fact, a minuscule number of them are in question, but the margin of victory is even more minuscule. There's no reason to doubt the validity of the vast, vast majority of votes, which will still apply in the other races on the ballot. Second key to point out is that even amongst the smaller group of votes, there is no evidence of fraud. All of these ballots, Joe Gloria, the county registrar, noted Monday that discrepancies are common and generally not fraud. The number of discrepancies countywide is almost identical to the number in this specific race, with 936 of them. Even if that were extrapolated to the entire state, it would account for 1,500 disputed votes, far shy of President-elect Joe Biden's 33,000 vote margin. These assholes are desperate, and they don't know what they are talking about. When you have millions of votes cast, and the discrepancy in a particular local race is less than 10 votes, and you have, which is 1/10 of 1%, and you have about 1 to 2%, votes that are challenged at the polls, that come in, there's arguments about postmark when you got a bunch of Republicans standing around trying to kick out every vote they can. The variance between that 139 and 10 votes difference means you got to do another election for that particular seat. It's too close. The hearts are actually coming from Periscope, I believe. Oh, these guys. That thing that you're seeing. I see. That is, quite frankly, if I may, these are people giving hearts on Periscope, or they're giving cheers. I can't read it because it's too small on my screen. So you'll have to tell me which is which. But it's just kind of a way of thanking everybody who likes the show or sends a any kind of little gift or whatever. So there you go. So let's be abundantly clear. Let's go back a second in what this dude is talking about. Knowing what we know now, okay? Knowing what we know now about the Nevada race. And let's listen to these assholes talk about this.
Fraudulent. It's erroneous. But we can count the votes for President of the United States.
Okay. They're not fraudulent. They're not erroneous. They are challenged, but the number of ballots that were challenged is incredibly small. 936 in the whole state, 136 in Clark County itself. The margin between the race is 10 votes. If you go back through those 136 votes and you go, let's look at these, let's review them. Should they be thrown out? Do they deserve to be challenged? Can we cure those ballots after all? If you get into those and you do 50 of them, if you're able to cure 50 of them, that might turn the race. So, because the margin was so small, they got to have a second race. There is no allegation of fraud, misuse, mishandling of votes. But listen how these assholes are talking about this stuff.
This election for county commissioners, it's corrupt.
No, it isn't.
It's fraudulent.
No, it wasn't.
It's erroneous.
No, it's not.
But we can count the votes for President of the United States.
Because the margin is enormous.
I don't think anyone with a scintilla of intelligence can accept that analysis.
I would argue that, and many would argue, I think, that I have a scintilla of intelligence. And I will argue precisely that point. And I will counter and support my argument with the idea that you don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
They're throwing out the votes of the race they want to overturn.
Huh?
Right, but
Yeah.
but for fraud. I mean, right there alone.
No, not for fraud. You're throwing the word fraud in. Where is your allegation that the discrepancy is fraudulent? Why are you not telling your audience that there is a 10-vote difference for this one single office and the number of ballot discrepancies in the county for which this race only applies is 136 votes? Huh?
Alone. All of those votes or none of those votes should be
Everybody, look. If anyone voting is bad, then everyone voting is bad. I gotta argue we're going back to a monarchical system.
thrown aside. That should be it. If there's
Well,
fraud,
here-
they shouldn't count for any vote. They shouldn't count for Biden or Trump.
There is no question that when Clark County officials, who are all Democrats, decide to throw out a county commissioner race, that the Democrat won because they don't have confidence in that race.
Tell him, Rich. Tell him, Grinnell. Tell him how many votes there are difference between these two candidates. Out of all the votes in Clark County, the most populous county in the entire goddamn state. Why are you guys, and again, folks, I have told you this before, and this is the key to all this. If they tell you the percentage and they don't tell you the actual number, you're being sold a bill of goods. You are being lied to. If they say 80% of people are saying this, well, 80% of who? And how many? Well, we asked the 30 people. So 80% of the 30 people? Does the number change when you ask 1,000 people? Yeah, it does, drastically. Because as we ask everybody across the county, and not just everybody in this one church, it kind of changes the ideas a little bit.
The same.
Hal, you must have been a badass in debate club. I was brutal in debate. And partly because I was so patient. And I can speak fast.
Races on the same ballot are all in question, and that is.
No, they're not. Not by any measure. Notice how none of these jackasses, even in their highly edited, I guess this is maybe this is just he was obviously the DNI, so maybe this is just an attempt to give everybody who's watching this seizures. But even in this highly edited nonsense, Notice how they never bring up the number of votes differing.
That is the Trump-Biden vote in Nevada.
Which there were enormous numbers of difference, especially in Clark County. But please give us another flash screen wipe.
Litigation issues are different. And
Jesus, I just feel like I need to how do I even? Let's should we go there? Hold on. Boop. Hi. I'm just changing. I'm just going to change stations, or shots just for the sake of it. These jackasses. That's lovely. Boink.
in each state. Georgia's is different than Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania is different than Nevada. That's why you have to go to court in the individual jurisdictions that are outcome determinative.
Yeah. And you will be laughed out of court for being a fraud and a moron. Notice how they take ACLJ as their little thing so that it looks like the ACLU, but they've cut off part of the U. And then I guess in the A is are we going with a bald eagle head right there? Is that what we're doing on that guy? Well, you can't see it behind the heart. Sorry. There you go. Once it fades. That ACLJ thing. This is the argument, guys. This is what they're going into court with. It's the double piece. Really? You think so? These guys? You sure? I don't know. Maybe because they're allegedly Christians. Is that what it is? Is Giuliani being disbarred yet? No. That would take a hearing on it and a bunch of other stuff. I'm guessing that that won't actually happen. Simply because, I mean, dude's, is he really worth the court's time? So, yeah. I want to... Okay. All right.
This is Rudy
Oh, boy. Look out. Here it comes. Rudy's got a fresh video out. He's just... and swear to God, I do not know... It's an Elmo skin jacket. I do not know why... what this hairdo is. There's nothing here, and then this is all fluffed up. This has to be that he just sleeps on his right side, right? We're not going to do all of it. I have to go work. Here's Rudy. Rudy's common sense. He's got the same suit on he wore to court, and the same tie, still no glory hole. That's at his house. He's not at his house. He's in D.C. in a hotel, being paid for by maggots and Trumpsters. Yeah.
Giuliani.
I'm sure they're giving him some walk-around money. You know? You're not going to fly Rudy Giuliani. This is America's mayor. You're going to fly him to D.C. and put him up in anything short of the presidential suite. He's the president's lawyer. He should get the president's lawyer suite. And some, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Three hots and a cot on drawn from the legal funds sent in, and was it $20,000 a day? A little walk around money, a little envelope he can leave on the dresser for whoever might come and visit.
With Rudy's common sense.
You can't say common sense and then make that face. I'm gonna spit my drink all over my laptop.
Today we're going to focus on.
Why did you have to cut away so fast?
For me, one of the biggest surprises that I've had in this case in which I am representing the Trump campaign.
Okay. The biggest surprise. Unbelievable. Here it comes. What is it?
And there have been many surprises.
Well, yes, there have. Absolutely. Like that Four Seasons Total Landscaping is not actually associated with the Four Seasons, and that you need $2 worth of tokens to go back to the video booths in Fantasy Island, or they won't let you.
But I was absolutely shocked to learn.
Why did you do a one-cheek sneak on us? Why would you do such a thing? Why would you do such a thing?
That many, if not all, of our ballots are calculated outside of the United States of America. In the state of Michigan, for example, the state of Arizona, the state of Georgia,
Right.
the calculations are handled by a company called Dominion. They have the machines. They have a reputation of being, well, I guess the best way to say it is the state of Texas turned them down because they were not considered competent enough to handle.
No, the state of Texas is a red state, and they wanted the ballot company that was closely associated with the financial interests of the party, because a lot of them have stock in ENSJ or ES&J, whatever that company is.
Handle elections in Texas.
Bye.
And when I tell
Hey,
you
Brian.
their real history, I think you'll be quite shocked that
I
we
will be shocked. I will be shocked. Shock me.
used them at all
Uh-oh.
for elections.
Mm.
But in any
Hi,
event,
Bethany.
Dominion doesn't really count the votes. Dominion has a contract with a company called Smartmatic.
No, they don't.
And Smartmatic has locations.
Oh God. Yeah, Dominion ships the ballots to Communist China to be counted. No, they send them to Canada. It's worse.
In Frankfurt, Germany, and in Barcelona, Spain.
Oh my God. Germany and Spain. Are those countries, do they even exist anymore?
So when the votes are being calculated, they are sent to, most of them in this particular election, Frankfurt, I believe, but there may have been some sent to Barcelona, Spain.
What kind of computer system has to calculate tabulations in another country? What the shit are you talking about? I mean, let's just start straight out of the gate. This is fucking garbage. That they're basically saying that because this company Smartmatic, which isn't related to Dominion's work in the United States, counts stuff, does other countries' ballots, that they must count them. See this calculator? I punch numbers in, but this goes all the way up to a satellite and back down. It's like asking Siri for how long it takes to boil an egg. 11 minutes, by the way. And you start with the water boiling, and then as soon as you take it out at 11 minutes, you immediately put it in a bowl of ice water to stop it from cooking inside, because the internal temperature will continue to cook it and it'll make the yolk very hard. Do I have to tell you guys everything? 11 minutes. 7 if you want a soft-boiled egg.
Those votes are also
Still use the ice bath.
in machines, devices that
Yes.
are extremely vulnerable to hacking.
Well, especially if you speak Castilian Spanish or German.
And extremely vulnerable to manipulation. Now,
You mean just psychological, emotional? If you buy the machine chocolates, it'll put out on the first date. What kind of manipulation are we talking, Rudy? Tuck me in on
let me
this.
tell you the history of Smartmatic.
Okay,
Because
tell me
when
the
you hear
history.
it, you're not going to believe it, and you're going to have to go check what I say by Googling it if they haven't removed all of this already.
All right, let's see. All right, hold on. Googling Smartmatic. Smartmatic. So let's see. Home. We create and offer voting technology things. There's their page. Smartmatic's response to misinformation. Well, you can't trust that. Let's see. Giuliani's fantasy parade of false voter fraud claims. In interviews with sympathetic Fox News host, former New York mayor has made several wild claims about voters, blah, blah, blah. Moreover, presidential tweets have been flagged by Twitter as misleading. Moreover, this nonsense has already been debunked by Trump's own government in a statement issued November 12th. The Cybersecurity Infrastructure Security Agency, an arm of the Department of Homeland Security, said there's no evidence that any voting system deleted or lost votes, changed votes, or in any way was compromised. That sentence was posted in boldface just to make it clear. Let's see. Frankly, we're tempted to just end our fact check with that statement, but we asked Giuliani why he ignores an authoritative government statement but did not hear back. After all, why elevate falsehoods designed to spread fear about the election security? But given that Giuliani has made these claims on television, we feel duty-bound to explain why they are bunk. They did 27 states. The company's not American. It's foreign. Company that has close ties with Venezuela and therefore China, and uses a Venezuelan company software that's been used to steal elections in other countries. That's the Dominion story. The company says it's nonpartisan, blah, blah, blah. I don't think... I'm trying to find where he talks about. The software is done by a company called Smartmatic. There it is. A company that was founded by Hugo Chavez, by Chavez's two allies who still own it, and it's been used to cheat in elections in South America. It was banned by the United States about a decade ago. It's come back now as a subcontractor to other companies. It sort of hides in the weeds, but Dominion sends everything to Smartmatic. Can you believe it? Our votes are sent overseas. They're sent someplace else, some other country. Why did they leave our country? Smartmatic, on its own fact check page, says, this is all crazy. Smartmatic, an election technology company, was founded and incorporated in the United States in 2000, inspired by the hanging Chad debate in the 2000 election. It is now headquartered in London. Two of the founders, Antonio Mujica and Roger Piñate, continue to run the company as CEO and president, respectively. The majority of shares, 83%, are held by SGO, a company owned by them. The remaining are held by employees and angel investors. Smartmatic software is not licensed or otherwise used by other companies. There's a long ago corporate connection to Venezuela, according to news accounts in 2006. They replaced Venezuela's election machinery before a referendum that confirmed Chavez as president in 2004, and the Venezuelan government made a $200,000 loan to another technology company owned by some of the same people as Smartmatic. With the money from its contracts with Venezuela, Smartmatic in 2005 bought Sequoia Voting Systems, which had contracts in 70 states, but it sold Sequoia in 2007 after an investigation was launched by the Committee on Foreign Investment in the United States into the company's possible Venezuelan ties. So it's gone. Dominion eventually purchased assets of Sequoia in 2010. A company spokesperson said that's the backdoor thing he's talking about. The chairman of Smartmatic is a close business associate of George Soros, said Giuliani. Mark Malloch Brown is chairman of SGO Corp, the parent company of Smartmatic. Malloch Brown is also on the board of Soros's Open Society Foundation, which makes grants to civil society groups. George Soros is a billionaire backer of liberal causes, so Giuliani is sending a dog whistle to his right-wing audience. Soros otherwise has no connection to Smartmatic. Let's see. And then the other one was, the company tried and true methods for fixing elections by calling a halt to the voting when you're running too far behind. They have done it in prior elections. Giuliani has offered no evidence to back up his claim. In 2017, Smartmatic reported the Venezuelan government reported a false turnout figure for a contested election, adding at least 1 million votes to the number. The company said the absence of election monitors from the opposition, which boycotted the election, allowed the manipulation of turnout figures. Dominion is a company that's owned by another company called Smartmatic. Indra Sistemas is a Spanish technology company. Smartmatic says it has no ties to it. That's it. Okay, cool. So, here we go.
Smartmatic is a company whose origins go back to somewhere around 2004, 2005.
2000, but okay.
It was founded by two Venezuelans, and two Venezuelans that were very close to the dictator in Venezuela, Chavez.
Mm-hmm.
And it was founded for the specific purpose of being able to fix elections. That's right. The company that is calculating many of our votes in 27 states,
mm-hmm.
the company that's using the software to count those votes,
right,
was founded for the specific purpose of fixing elections.
You have that on good authority from whom? I mean, were you there? I mean, believe me, if somebody told me Rudy Giuliani was in the room when a group of people were talking about fixing elections, I'd buy it. I don't buy that if you were planning on fixing elections and you were worried Rudy Giuliani would spoil it, you would let him anywhere near it. So I'm not sure where he thinks that, and this is a motive question. I was about to say in court they would call this hearsay, but since he didn't hear anything, or hear anybody say anything. It's just fart air.
If you want to check that out, go online
Okay.
and look at the Sequoia case
Right.
in Chicago. We'll explain it in a little while.
Yep.
And look at the testimony and the letter from Congresswoman Carolyn Maloney, who happens to be my representative in Congress, where I live in New York, and her concerns about Smartmatic going back to 2007, 2008, as a Venezuelan company that had a very,
It's
very
fart say. That's right.
terrible reputation for fixing elections.
Great.
They were founded for the specific purpose of making sure that Chavez was elected and reelected, really reelected, and also then used in Argentina at least once or twice in order to make sure that the election was fixed in the way that Chavez.
By the way, this is the Sequoia stuff through Smartmatic, but not which I guess they bought the parts of once that company was scuttled because they couldn't do business in the United States. So they bought some elements of it, or at least the infrastructure therein. Nobody's saying, on his side anyways. It sounds like a standard corporate takeover of another failing competitor, but
Has wanted it fixed.
by the way, Dominion was used in the states that Trump won last time. So are we to believe that the fix was in for Trump last time? If they're specifically there, then how can Trump say with a straight face that he won those states last time? I think the first thing we need to do is nullify every election that's used them, which insofar as I know is just this one and last one.
Place in which this all was exposed was
Oh, don't say exposed, honestly.
during
You're still in the same hotel room.
the 2007 election in Chicago, in which Sequoia, a company named Sequoia, was counting the ballots in Chicago. There was a tremendous amount of confusion. The result of the election was delayed, and there was a great deal of concern with the voting machines. No one really had focused nobody had really focused on where these voting machines had come from. But the voting machines came from
Right? Where?
and were embedded with software from Smartmatic. Again, outside the country. And when they did
Still not Dominion. Smartmatic bought Sequoia or used Sequoia. Local Chicago elections were using cheaper machines. They failed.
the investigation, they found this whole history of
Yeah, I don't know what's going on with his hair. I swear to God. And my theory is he sleeps on the right side of his head.
Smartmatic.
And he naps right up until the time they say, and go.
That Sequoia was really a front for Smartmatic, the way Dominion is a front for Smartmatic.
No, that would be drawing a false connection. If you were saying this in court,
And Detroit used them in this particular election, for example, and a lot of Michigan used it in this particular election. Mm-hmm.
they used him in the last one too. Didn't Trump win Michigan last time?
Apparently taking a look at their history.
Yeah. You mean the history of putting Donald Trump in the White House?
And their history right here in the United States, including the election
Including the 2016 election.
they did in Chicago,
In 2016?
is as a company that has been
Sure.
extremely number one.
Didn't Trump win a bunch of states and you were very proud of that fact? You thought it was amazing? And these machines were used?
One, extremely ineffective, a lot of mistakes, but
So, yeah, well, I would say Trump is a
number
mistake.
two, suspected of directly interfering in elections, because that was the whole purpose for their origin. And that's the company that we used to collect our ballots. Now, how do we find out about this?
Because Trump won in 2016 and it looks like there was cheating involved, and you were like, there's no friggin' way he could beat Hillary. There must have been shenanigans in all of these three states. Oh my God, they all used the Dominion things. This must have been the Russians interfering with this. And so you immediately went down to Trump and told him that he should step down as president, resign, and hand it over to Hillary because these machines can't be trusted.
We found out about it because they apparently made a big mistake.
Uh-oh, a big mistake. They hired you as their lawyer?
Usually, according to the evidence that we have so far, and I think we're going to have quite a bit more,
I don't think you are.
the way Smartmatic fixes an election is to very subtly change votes. So there isn't some big change in any.
Yeah, they're the same. They change it so you vote for the same person that you voted for, but it smells of lavender.
One particular voting place. So let's say you want to make up 50,000 votes in the city of New York. So you don't do it in one place. You don't do it in two places, three.
No.
They use an algorithm in which they spread it out across the city. So they can get you a 2 or 3% difference over your opponent. This is
how Trump won last time? Is that what you're telling me?
their formula that they used in Venezuela. This is the formula they use in Argentina. This is the formula they're known for.
So, obviously, you don't trust the outcome of the 2016 election.
That is executed by the Smartmatic algorithms and the Smartmatic software, which, as I said,
Tell me the difference between softwares and algorithms. I'm just looking around. Tell me. First of all, since you didn't know what opacity meant in court, please tell us all what you think an algorithm is, and whether or not you think that involves software, or whether there's just sort of a giant white head with wearing a black robe dangling in the middle of the sky going guilty.
originates from Venezuela.
In
In other words, we're using a Venezuelan system to calculate the votes in the United States.
No, we're using math to calculate the votes in the United States.
We're using a system that originates from a dictatorship, maybe one of the worst in the world.
You do realize the ballots are kept
As the core
so that if the numbers don't add up, they can have a recount, which they don't do in Venezuela.
of our vote calculation.
Uh-huh.
And a company whose expertise is subtle changes in
Clearly he's a leprechaun.
votes. So they're not noticed. So they're not too many anomalies in the vote return.
Right. So that's why Trump's narrow win last time is what you're saying. That they would just subtly do it over multiple counties to make Trump the winner when he didn't deserve it. You've convinced me.
Now, of course, like anything else, Smartmatic and Dominion are not perfect. They weren't perfect in Antrim County, Michigan. In Antrim, all of a sudden, on election day, or when the returns came in from the machine, Biden was ahead. It made no sense because all the Republicans down-ticketed won, and Trump had won that county, I've forgotten by what percentage, but a very large percentage in 2016. And he won the counties around it, similar places around it by big margins. Well, it turned out
Right.
that, among other things, in one
This is the 6,000 vote thing.
particular machine, they had switched, Dominion had, and Smartmatic, which is the ultimate software, had switched.
Why not just have Dominion be the bad guy in this instead of making up this attachment to Smartmatic? Is it the George Soros thing? Is it really only a conspiracy if there are Jews involved, Rudy? Is that what we're talking about here?
6,000 votes. It switched 6,000 votes from Trump to Biden.
And somebody
So
noticed
the
they switched
poor
them back?
people of Michigan that went in to vote for Trump
Were there any situations where it switched Biden votes to Trump?
ended up voting for Biden because the machine and the software
Uh-huh.
that originates,
In Venezuela And clearly, and is counted in Barcelona. Clearly, there's all of these Hispanics and the Spanish people who cannot be trusted.
Venezuela,
Yeah.
a dictatorship, changed their vote without their ever knowing it. Now, had they
So your vote pinged through Venezuela.
not been so piggish in that county, we never would have caught them. If it had been a difference of 2,000, 1,200, it would have been hard to catch. And that's what they usually do because they're very smart and
That's what they did in 2016.
very crafty. So now we're looking for anomalous results in other parts of the country.
And you're finding more Biden votes.
We have some very, very good leads where they've changed votes. We're probably not going to get too many because they do it in a way that's very.
Yeah, they. You look marvelous. Let me tell you this, Rudy, and I don't mean to call you that because of how you're acting, but it's also true.
Very careful. But one of the other things they do is
What do
they
do?
warn you when you're falling too far behind when the count is going on.
How do they do this?
So I don't know if you remember this, but on election night, there was a period of time in which it looked like Trump was going to win by an unexpectedly large margin. He was ahead in
Pennsylvania.
he was ahead in Pennsylvania
Uh-huh.
by between 700,000 and 800,000 votes,
votes,
65% of the vote cast. Normally, when we used to have a fair and decent.
Normally, when most people voted in person and weren't in the middle of a pandemic and we weren't doing mail-in ballots and no need for an excuse absentee balloting, this would have happened in person, right?
Media, that would have been call for him because they weren't going to call anything for him
Jesus.
until they called enough for Biden, rightly or wrongly, that would make him the winner. Like they get to decide who wins. Somebody should remind them it's the Electoral College that decides who wins, not NBC, CBS.
Yeah, they called it for Trump last time. He didn't wait to start his transition until it was certified, you asshole.
CNN, Fox.
Well, honest to God, Fox. Well, I'm with you on that one. Fox is a nest of vipers.
Or any of the rest of them. But in any event, they didn't call it for
No.
Trump, even though normally that would be called.
Yeah,
for
normally.
someone with a 700,000 to 800,000 lead. Also, he had a.
No, you wouldn't, because the outstanding ballots were clearly the mail-in ballots. They had a day to wait to start counting them because that was the law in Pennsylvania, and they knew that a vast majority of those were for Biden, and there was over 1.2 million of those ballots out there, and since the plurality of them were coming from highly populated areas, very Democrat-heavy areas, and were largely mail-in ballots, the math pointed to the fact that going forward, the number of votes that would go to Biden may exceed 1 million votes, which would far give him the ability to overtake them. So that's why they waited.
Very, very substantial lead in Wisconsin. I think it was 8-9%.
Yeah, I don't know why they would bother making a spitting image doll of him, even, honestly.
Something like 85% of the vote cast. He had a 300,000 vote lead in Michigan, again with 80.
No, he didn't. No, he didn't. It's not a game. You don't have a lead when they're counting votes. I don't know how hard this is for people to grasp intellectually. What the hell is wrong with you? Listen to me. Nobody's ahead in the counting of a race. It might be a perception game when you're doing it, but it doesn't matter. People aren't going, oh my God, he's down. I need to run my ballot in at the last second. That's not, and it's certainly not at a margin that makes a difference in any election. Nobody's ahead, and if you're ahead in the counting, it has zero materiality in the reality of the race. Zero. The only number that matters is the final number of votes cast that are verifiable and valid and legal. I don't give a shit if we start in red counties and it looks like the red candidate's ahead and then they go to the blue counties and there's a lot of people in them and it flips it. It's not football. We're not talking about innings. These are voters individually saying who they want to be president or county commissioner of Clark County. And by walking it in there individually, they are making a decision about the person who has a job. They don't win a prize. The presidency is not a prize. It's a job. You're getting hired. It's a temp job. It is one of the few legally mandated temp jobs in the United States. And it sucks. It ages the shit out of everybody. Obviously, Trump didn't because he, golfed more than any president in history, and we have no idea what he actually looks like under his, the pumpkin rind.
85% of the vote cast. He had 2.5% lead in Georgia and North Carolina. Now, that isn't as great, but we were at 90%, and it's usually, I remember when I won the mayoralty, I was at 2.5%.
Yeah, because they knew where the counties were coming from, and they knew what the nature of the votes that were coming in were. The reality was, with mail-in voting being so tilted towards one particular party, that getting ahead in the regular count did not guarantee that you would win. This is very different. You cannot, there's no analogy, there's no analog between this election and other elections in terms of this stuff at all. Like he's like, I want to, yeah. There wasn't a 60% mail-in factor.
With 85% of the vote cast, and they called the election for me. Let's take a short break.
Oh no. Cigars? I'm going with cigars right away. I haven't watched this. We don't know. But we didn't have cigars last time.
I couldn't believe we were evicted
Oh my God. Home title lock. I can't believe we were evicted from our pumpkin patch.
Our home that we didn't even sell.
We didn't even sell.
Those are the words of a homeowner, Deborah, when she learned she was the victim of home title fraud.
What
It's
is
a devastating crime
when I'm
that
in
can
a
cost
drone,
you your home.
flying over
And
a
title
neighborhood
fraud
with no
is not covered
cars,
by insurance
and to the
or common
governor's
identity theft
mansion,
services.
and then we
The
go.
only folks
But I will say, we do get to see Rudy's glory hole today because he didn't do this ad in his hotel room. They're running the old ad that he taped in his place, so you can see the glory hole behind him. Neighbors come by, knock, little wiener goes through. Rudy does his business. I guess there's a coin slot behind the bookcase. I think that's how it works. And then, yeah.
to trust that I know of to protect your home's title.
And I have no proof of this, but if you look it up, just Google it. I think most of the penises come from Venezuela.
Is home title lock. Cyber thieves have discovered
Cyber thieves? Explain what a cyber thief is.
on your deed
Uh-huh.
in debt barrier. They mobilize address.
I still don't know why they use Mount Vernon. Somebody stole George Washington's identity.
Returning.
Thanks for. Oh, we're back. We couldn't. What? Okay. Hey, we set up 2 cameras. Let's use them.
Well, it looked pretty good. He was ahead almost everywhere, even
Until they started counting the actual votes.
in Virginia.
He wasn't ahead. He wasn't ahead. I have to say, this is the false premise that drives me the craziest during this whole bullshit. Yeah, Biden stole the title to the White House from Trump. I can't believe we were thrown out of our house, which wasn't ours. And this idea that someone is ahead, they're not ahead. They have no material connection to the counting of the votes. It is out of their control in that material counting. They can't run in there and help pour ballots into a counting machine. There is no instance where their behavior affects the outcome of the election in terms of counting once the polls have closed. So you're not a downhill skier beating somebody's time. You were never ahead and then you hit a mogul and it slowed you down. There was no point where the 3rd inning your team was up and then you were down. The analogy itself is failed. And I know it's probably, I'm the only one this annoys. But it is a fundamental it's a fundamental support of his argument and a fundamental flaw in even the conversation about this bullshit.
Yeah. Where no one expected him to be ahead. And of course,
Yes, they would. They expected him to be ahead. People talked about it for weeks. Trump's going to be ahead because the in-person vote's going to be more for him.
it was too early to
Even in areas where he will lose.
tell about Arizona, which was called immediately by Fox for Biden.
Yeah, because they had a shit ton of people on the ground, and there's only 2 real cities there.
Which of course was a very bad call because it took
They turned out to be right.
a week to
It's very bad for you.
figure out the margin, and the margin now is about 8,000 votes.
It's 11,000.
It's like that.
It's gone up.
And it could easily be wrong. By the way, it is wrong.
No, it isn't. I mean, if you can say that, I can say it's not. And I at least have the numbers on my side. It's right. It's 11,000 votes.
We'll prove that, not only with evidence about Dominion, may not be able to get specific evidence of that.
Okay. We're going to prove it with the evidence I'm going to show you. Now, we might not be able to get any evidence, but because I called it evidence and put that in your head, you have to assume that there once was evidence, and evidence does exist. We just can't get to it. By my assertion that evidence exists, there cogito ergo sum, evidence exists. This is a grown man making this argument.
On the machines, but I'll tell you,
This is the president's lawyer. He's been in this same friggin' hotel room for weeks.
what we can do, we can show
Your penis to a 15-year-old girl in a... Oh, sorry, different.
that there were many, many absentee and mail-in ballots that were not inspected at all by Republicans.
Which Republicans are you talking about? You mean campaign people or real Republicans, local Republicans? By the way, this is just a lie. Like, I don't even know how to, like... They were turning away poll watchers because they had too many.
That were just put in behind our backs. And remember, when it's a mail-in ballot or an absentee ballot,
Yep.
there's
What?
only one point at which you can verify the ballot.
Right. Because it's a private voting experience. So there's a process. There's a Democrat and Republican there. And?
That's when it's being counted.
No. No, that's actually wrong. It is not counted until after it is separated. It is verified, and then it is counted elsewhere. The ballots, because they are then private, are taken to another section and run through the machine so that the person separating the ballot from its envelope and verifying it does not know the quantity of votes involved in the pile, so they might start manipulating it because these are all coming from a county that is either for my side or against my side. So no. As a matter of fact, by the time it is counted, the identity of the person is supposed to be separated.
Because it gets separated from the envelope that verifies it.
Right. Okay. Think for a second, Rudy. Think what you just said. Think. And then try to remember if you're wearing a diaper and you should just let it rip or you should take a short break. Maybe just wiggle a little and you can tell if there's a crinkling noise, something squishy.
Once you look at it, you say, okay,
Uh-huh.
it gets put in the vote pile.
Right. And then it's tabulated later.
The envelope gets put in the other pile. There's
Right.
nothing that connects them together, and you lose that for eternity.
No, you don't. It gets counted. You don't lose it for eternity. It's already served its purpose. There is no reason to go back again. And if you cure a ballot because something went wrong or you have to do an audit or a recount, you count the ballots, you count the envelopes, you clear the signatures on the envelopes to make sure that the number matches up so that there's no overlap or missing ones. And if there's envelopes where there's no ballot or ballots where there's no envelope, then you either cull those numbers from the overall total And usually if that does happen, they're minuscule, like the 136 here in Clark County in Nevada. You're a jackass. I don't even know why I'm arguing this with it's the shit pumpkin, Charlie Brown.
Can't be rechecked. It can't be
It doesn't have to be rechecked. There is no process by which it's supposed to be. Otherwise, it wouldn't be private anymore.
counted. You can't go back and look at the machine.
No, you're not supposed to. That's how you keep people's private vote private. Asshole.
That's why the recounts, when you can't link the envelope to the ballot, are meaningless.
No, it isn't. Because the voter rolls have 153,621 people on it. The votes that came in are 153,621. You match those up together. If there's an extra one on this side or a missing one or an extra one on this side, you recognize that discrepancy and you either check all these to make sure everyone's vote was counted if there's or you throw out the additional ballot that doesn't have a corresponding envelope or a corresponding checkoff that this person voted, but who they voted for is none of your goddamn business. You can absolutely verify, recount, and audit these things. This is just dumb. Does this asshole actually think that there's not a barcode associated in Nevada with every goddamn ballot that comes in that goes even beyond your signature that verifies it? And if they need to, that literally is attached to your address and all, he thinks we're using a Venezuelan system like purple fingertips in a rack and cardboard boxes.
And that's why
you're an asshole.
There's such a strong emphasis on making certain that both sides get a chance to see that ballot. We've never had an election where we had this kind of pervasive, nationwide problem with that.
And you didn't. There wasn't. There simply wasn't. He's just lying about this. Like, I wish there was something clever or specific. Literally, what they're bitching about is not that Republicans couldn't view it, but that Trump loyalist poll watchers that they sent marching down with long guns to places, it got turned away because there were already enough poll watchers. The dude who showed up an hour late, who was supposed to be there when the polls closed so they could start counting right away, showed up at, instead of 8:30 when they closed, at 9:30 and was turned away and put in another room in case anybody got sick and wanted to go home. Yeah, you can sit in the dugout. If anybody gets sick or gets a phone call and you want to be a poll watcher, you're on deck, but you're not one. You stay in that room because we have enough people.
Absentee ballots happen all the time.
Yes, they do. Usually when people are absent.
Politically, they become the source of disputes between the two sides. But I've never heard of so many instances where hundreds of thousands, and now it goes over 1 million, absentee ballots were counted by just one side. Republicans had no chance to see the ballot.
That's a lie.
Outrageous.
Yeah, if it was true, it'd be outrageous. It's not.
It's outrageous.
Why didn't you present it in court? Why do you have no evidence that the ballots were counted unlawfully or that there wasn't somebody viewing there? You can't. His evidence, literally, in Michigan, was the assumption that ballots must have come in. If 100,000 ballots came in at 4 o'clock in the morning during the shift change, which had viewers, Republican and Democrat, but that they were somehow last minute and they came in and nobody knows where they came from, even though the dude announced it over a loudspeaker and said they were coming in and the shift change would have to handle it, and P.S. there's food outside. Like normal interactions of human beings, which I understand Rudy Giuliani knows nothing about since he sleeps hanging upside down with his claw feet. And clearly, if I was him, I would feel gypped by the whole adrenochrome thing. At no point in this, they're basically extrapolating that if 100,000 came in, and we're assuming that nobody got to watch those, that there must have been other ballots that we also assume nobody watched, even though the ones our basic assumption was based on were watched. The dude who was there was literally kept outside and never got to be on part of the shift. He stayed in that room until they boarded it up till 2 o'clock because he was trying to film people doing ballots, and he was doxing people. So they put the pizza boxes up because they already had enough poll watchers. They had another shift come in. You don't get to just hang around all night and take over because you think you should be allowed in. Other people had already signed up. This is so gross.
And in many of these states, that number far exceeds Biden's small margin of victory. Those ballots should be declared null and void.
No. What ballots? I guess is the bigger question. What ballots? What ballots? Because literally he's extrapolated this to 1.5 million votes spread across all 50 states, or probably only 12, or probably just the swing states. But it's because he heard that there were some other ones, and if he's heard of these, there must be others. And there must be an exponential number of others, because we need an exponential number of others to clear the loss that we have. So the fantasy number has to be 150,000 beyond what we're losing by.
They should be taken out of the count. And
no,
if that happens, and I believe it will,
it won't.
You're going to see at least 3 or 4 of these states, if not all of them, flip, because the number of illegal ballots far exceeds the small lead that Biden has.
But the assumption is that if you remove all the ballots from one particular area, it's the differential in it. Now, obviously in Michigan and the Detroit area, Philadelphia and Pennsylvania, this is about disenfranchising black voters almost entirely. It's those darn black people.
In addition, the Dominion part is being investigated, and every day out in the
being investigated by who? You and Jay Sekulow?
Evidence is coming in about statistical anomalies.
Mountains of evidence about statistical anomalies.
And I expect soon there'll be even more targeted evidence of.
Yeah, why not? I mean, honestly, while we're thinking about it, I expect soon that Rudy Giuliani will actually come out of the closet as an old Christmas tangerine.
The fraud carried out by Dominion. I'll give you another example of how you can prove this.
Let's do it.
In Michigan. And concentrated in the
black areas?
Democrat areas of Michigan.
Close enough.
There were many districts.
Black people? Oh.
In which there was an overvote. What's an overvote?
Too many black people were allowed to vote?
An overvote is, there are some districts in which 150% of the people in the district voted.
No. There is no district in Michigan where 150% of the populace voted.
Or 200%.
There is no district wherein 200% of the population of an area voted.
There's even one with 300%.
300%. Jesus
people
Christ.
in the district voted. What does that mean?
It means you're insane or you can't count.
That means they're not real people. You can't.
There you have it.
Have over 100% of the people in the district voting.
Yeah, no one does.
It means they're either from some other district or they're completely phony ballots.
And your basis for this entire nonsense is what?
So if you have a district with 2,000 people and you have a
6,000 votes,
200% overvote.
You said 300%. I was going for the big shocker.
All those overvotes are fraudulent ballots.
Yes. And if someone tries to register dinosaurs to vote and anyone actually shows up in a T-Rex costume, I'm going to need to see photo ID. while we're making shit up.
that have to be taken out of the count. And when you look at Michigan, that number alone can wipe out
all of Trump's votes in the state.
all of
Trump's votes in the state.
the Biden lead and turn it around to a Trump victory.
Unless Trump's votes get thrown out in those multiple 100% doubling areas. And it turns out that most of that stuff happened, let's say, in the red districts, which is where you actually had two clients in the legal proceeding in Pennsylvania yesterday, but they didn't sue the county where they were denied the ability to have their ballots cured. You were suing blue counties for curing ballots, which is within their right.
I don't know how
To tie your shoes without shitting your pants.
I don't know how in good conscience
Anyone could hire you as a lawyer?
in Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, Nevada, Arizona, and Georgia. I have
Yeah, the states that matter.
no idea how anybody could, in good conscience, certify the vote.
Sure they could. They counted them, in some cases recounted them. They're not listening to your made-up bullshit stories, fantasy ideas that the vote is being counted in Barcelona.
Because the vote count right now is completely fraudulent. Completely. And
Why wouldn't I? Why wouldn't I believe you? You went into court yesterday and screamed about fraud, and then admitted it's not a fraud case, and did not present a fraud case.
I don't know if there are penalties of perjury for signing off on a vote count that's fraudulent. There should be. In every
Of course there are. Are there penalties for perjury for telling a judge the basis of your case when that is not indeed? Or how about this? Is there penalty of perjury if you write a letter to the court insisting that you be put on a case as lead attorney, and in it you say that you are a member in good standing of all the bar associations of the jurisdictions by which the court cases are going forward, and you aren't?
every one of those states, there are thousands and hundreds of thousands of ballots that were
The black people cast?
put in secret. Only
No. There weren't.
a Democrat.
I'm just going to go out on a limb and say that if you announce to a room full of people within earshot of people in Trump hats, if you use a megaphone to announce that 100,000 ballots have come in and the next shift's going to have to deal with these, they're from another county, that's the definition of not coming in secret.
Democrat observer and a Democrat official, and maybe just a Democrat official, even without a Democrat observer, looked at the ballot to verify it.
Yeah, so the Democrat official was not a Democrat observer, so there are blind Democrats. Oh, God.
It's completely contrary, not only to the law, I think the way in which they carried it out nationally is unconstitutional. It's a violation of the Due Process Clause of the United States Constitution. A candidate for president is entitled to fair treatment.
Agreed. I think Joe Biden should actually have access to the presidential daily brief and the task force.
Also
Did he just fart? He's been farting the whole time.
entitled to the same treatment
And no, it's not what due process is. You're absolutely right.
the other side gets. That's a violation of the Equal Protection Clause of the Constitution.
Sure.
Well, how can this not be a violation of due process and equal protection
Because it isn't.
if in fact
What?
ballots that are being counted do not allow for any inspection by
They do. Like, I don't know how many times they say this where he still thinks this is true. So Rudy's saying that black people should not vote because it violates the Constitution. Technically. You declare in ProHack Vice affidavits that the information contained in it is true. Right. Yeah, clearly we need that. I'm just saying.
the Republican side. They're counted by Democrats. And the only other inspection, if any, is done by a Democrat. And there are more than enough ballots like that in each one of these states to change the result from Biden to Trump. Which says to me that they really didn't make up those numbers on election night. They didn't make up 700,000 or 800,000 votes in Philadelphia. Well, they did make
You made it up.
it up. They made it up with phony ballots.
Dun dun dun.
They didn't catch up and pass him in Wisconsin, where he was leading by 8 or 9% with 85% in. No. What they did was they put in mail ballots, and they wouldn't let.
It has to be. That's the only way. There's no other explanation, guys. There's no way Trump could have lost. He's the most popular and greatest man in the world. He's what we've been waiting for our whole lives.
Republicans examined them, and they did it with a very, very deliberate, fraudulent plan. The Democrats did. They used cities that they completely control. They didn't do it in.
You mean Democratic cities voted for the Democrat en masse? You mean the highest population centers had the most votes and that they overwhelmingly went for the Democrat in Democratic city? What?
But in neutral cities, or Republican cities certainly, or they didn't even do it in cities that are moderately Democrat cities. They did it in cities they completely control. Detroit, Philadelphia, Milwaukee. Just think about this, right?
Okay, I'm done.
Those are places in which Philadelphia is legendary for voter fraud. I looked at the list of people convicted in the last 2 years in Philadelphia of voter fraud. It's almost the same as the number of people arrested, every week at a Eagles game for beating people up.
What, 2? Hold on a second. The shit? Yeah, he's being paid $20,000 a day for this. By the way, and Mitch McConnell is stymieing the support for everybody. Look at this.
People arrested, every week.
This is the argument.
I looked at the list of people convicted in the last 2 years.
The list of the number of people convicted in the last 2 years, which I would assume only includes the 2018 election. So in 2 years, the number of people is the number of people that is arrested for fighting at an Eagles game.
In Philadelphia of voter fraud, it's almost the same as the number of people arrested, every week at a Eagles game for beating people up.
How many people? How many people are arrested every weekend for beating people up? I mean, it's one thing to, a fight breaks out or some craziness happens. What does anybody know what the standard is on this shit?
Because they have a jail right in her mail.
Whoops.
Home
What
title
was that?
lock.
Hold on. Don't jump. Don't. What happened? Get back here.
And they did. And they did it by excluding Republicans completely.
No. Republicans were not excluded. They simply were not.
From observing any ballot. Couldn't observe not a single ballot.
Look at that, ladies and gentlemen. That is a notepad.
From observing any ballot.
Move your glasses.
Observe not a
Put the
single
pen aside. Look at that. Boink, boink, boink.
Now, why would you do that? Why would you do that in Philadelphia, in Pittsburgh, in Detroit, in Milwaukee, in Minneapolis?
Because it was hard to find a Republican in these heavily minority districts? I'm kidding. They had them.
In Las Vegas, Nevada, in Phoenix, Arizona, in Atlanta, Georgia. Why would you do that?
You wouldn't. Nobody did.
Why would you just
Why would you just make shit up?
uniformly exclude Republicans?
No one formally excluded Republicans. Nobody. Like, this is just... This has to be the crux of their entire argument, right? This has got to be it, right? This has to be it.
Why would you do it in every one of those, Mike? Every single one of them had that idea by themselves?
I guess.
It had to come from some central source. And why didn't...
Okay, so it's a RICO case. The Biden crime family contacted all these Democratic and Republican secretaries of state.
Why didn't it happen elsewhere? Because those are the places where they can get away with it. Those are the places where they completely control the election board. Those are the places...
They completely control the election board? Then why couldn't they get the Democratic commissioner elected with more than 10 votes?
Places where they can even get the sheriff to threaten people with arrest just for exercising their rights, which happened in several...
No, they didn't. That didn't happen. It didn't happen. They have election poll watchers in the room. They have a number of them based on the stations that are counting the ballots. As a Republican and a Democrat. Just because you don't think that person is Republican enough or you think you should be allowed in there last minute doesn't mean you can barge the fuck in there. And if you try, the sheriff's going to go, "What? How am I supposed to assume you're not like a school shooter or a psychopath? Get out of here."
Several cases. Those are the
There was
places
no...
where they can really be goons and push people around and have...
Yeah, that's the problem with cops. They're just goons. You know what I mean? This is where Rudy goes into defund the police.
No consequences. And those are the places where they have a fair number of crooked judges. There's just...
Bad judges, bad cops. Jesus. How do these... It's almost as if these cities that make all the money for the United States have some sort of big... All right.
It's the reality. So they picked the places where they thought they had immunity. Well...
Phoenix. Maricopa County. Vegas. You're kidding me, right? Trump came here and got a $72 million check.
Like most crooks who get too ambitious and too greedy.
Is there a mirror in that hotel room?
Because I think what happened is President Trump was ahead by way too much. They didn't anticipate have to make up 700,000 in Philadelphia and very large numbers in Michigan and all these other places.
Yeah, they did.
They got really sloppy. And that's how we caught them.
Because you're not good. The only way we could have caught these people is if they're sloppy. I'm a terrible lawyer.
They had to exclude all the Republicans from...
If they were good at this, I wouldn't have a shot. Or I'm pulling this all out of my ass because if I don't, my boss will not pay me $20,000 a day of his MAGA followers' money. That's also a possibility. Not that I want to Occam's razor this.
From the count, which makes it invalid just to start with.
Yeah, just, you know what? The only chance we have is throw the whole thing out, everyone's vote, but only the blue counties.
We have evidence of ballots being brought in the middle of the night.
Yeah. There were shifts of people counting all night. You know what they were also, you know what also was coming in the middle of the night? Pizza and tacos. Are you fucking stupid?
That look like they were just written off. They come in ash cans.
In ash cans.
Paper bags.
Paper bags. Rubber suits.
Rubber boxes.
Rubber boxes. What? Rubber boxes? What?
Ash cans.
Uh-huh.
Paper bags. Cardboard boxes.
Cardboard boxes.
Let's take a short break.
Oh, good. I knew it. Cigars and a fucking noise. Christ almighty. Listen to this. If I have to listen to it, so do you. Listen to this. Listen to him pulling this friggin' cigar out of his mouth. It's nasty. Rudy. It's disgusting. Get somebody to do some audio editing. It's gross. It sounds like you're an auto-fellatio freak just finishing up when somebody barges in on you.
Paper bags, cardboard boxes. Let's take a short break. If you want...
Aha!
A good cigar, go to a good cigar shop.
Don't listen to me. I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. If you want mouth cancer, follow Rudy. If you want rich guy asshole dog rockets, dude is like. And
The two things.
all right, here we go.
Each one of those states,
Put it together.
all the bad.
This is, by the way, this is exactly what he told the judge yesterday when the judge told him to go pound sand and cancel the evidentiary hearing. Because he's like, this is a waste of time. You're not presenting anything. They had an evidentiary hearing planned for tomorrow at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. They're not doing it. The judge said no because they don't have any evidence to present at the evidentiary hearing. They're going to go around going, they canceled it. We had an evidentiary hearing and they canceled it. Because you had nothing to bring.
All the ballots that were put in secretly.
They weren't secretly. Your own affidavit says they announced it with a bullhorn.
Without Republican inspectors.
That was a Republican there who was your witness.
Only with a Democratic office holder looking at it.
Then how in the shit does your guy know that a bunch of them were Biden, 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 Biden?
Maybe a Democrat inspector, no Republican. Those ballots violate.
So what are we supposed to believe? That Democrats came forward and turned in Joe Biden?
Both the due process and the Equal Protection Clause of the United States Constitution.
He's back to that, and it's not even proper law. I swear to God, he just heard those phrases again because he was in court.
Numbers are much greater than the margin.
Than the numbers of brain cells in your head.
And they have to be thrown out. And then
you got to throw them out. You got to no. These people, their ballots were not counted appropriately according to me and my witnesses, and therefore their legally cast ballot are null and void. That is the position of one Rudolph Giuliani and Donald John Trump. That if you mail in a ballot and we run interference on that mail-in ballot, your valid vote that you cast doesn't count. It must be thrown out with every single one of them. And by the way, if you think there's no fraud, well, we're very happy to get some Republicans to double vote and vote for their dead relatives so we can go, see, look what happens. Even though those people, their votes get thrown out and they get arrested and the system works, you use it as proof that the system isn't working and therefore want all the Democratic votes of people who didn't cheat or have their dead grandmother vote thrown out.
And then when you do the certification should justly be awarded to the person who leads by a substantial amount based
Stop counting when I'm winning, is the argument.
on the
We were winning early because they hadn't counted the votes from the counties I'm not going to win. So stop the count. And then once Biden overtook him, it was stop the steal and start the count again.
ballots that followed the law, that weren't struck off in somebody's back garage.
Their back garage? So where you park your back?
Working as a Democratic operative in Detroit, Michigan, or Philadelphia, Pennsylvania.
Black people.
Or wherever. And then, most importantly, I want you to remember, because this goes beyond this election.
Okay.
We should never
Ever.
have the votes in the United States sent to a foreign country.
Right. So tell the RNC to not release the voter information for every registered voter on their server and leave it unprotected for 3 days.
I'm shocked that we were doing it.
We're not doing it. But if anybody has done anything like it, it's the RNC.
Even a friendly country like Canada, where I think we thought they were going.
You thought they were going to Canada to be counted?
We're capable of counting votes here in America.
Yeah, the voting machines do that. They tabulate them. They don't store them, and they're for comparison later. They keep the paper ballots until certification.
So we can have discipline. We can be
Ooh.
sure our enemies aren't involved in it. Here we have a company that's controlled by Venezuelans who support Maduro,
No.
one of the worst dictators in the hemisphere, one of the biggest enemies of the United States, one of the people that would, more than anything, want to see Donald Trump out of office.
Really?
Shouldn't happen. Votes should be counted in the United States.
They are.
If we learn anything
And you haven't.
from this pervasive voter fraud,
It's that there is no way that pocket square and that tie came in the same box.
that I believe is going to overturn an election and put it in the right column.
No.
But in any event, whatever we learn from it,
What we'll learn from it is never listen to Rudy Giuliani, especially if he says his GPS is right and the Four Seasons has the best afternoon tea of any hotel in the area.
what has to emerge from it is never, ever again
Never.
should our votes be
Ever.
counted
In
outside of
Canada.
the United States of America. So they become
Tell Mitch McConnell to bring the election security bill to the floor.
really completely unable
Oh, unable to what?
to discipline, to secure, to make sure they're done validly, to
The paper ballots are still here. They don't mail those to Barcelona.
make sure there aren't formulas that are used to switch the vote by 2-3%, or formulas that are used to warn you if you should put in illegal ballots.
Really? Is that? Is it an email thing or is it in Slack? How does that work?
So keep following it. The evidence over 1 million absentee ballots
Oh God! Why
are
did it go back?
counted by just one side.
Quick.
That has to happen because you shouldn't be allowed to do this. Thank you very much. And we'll be back very shortly, I'm sure, with even a more detailed description of this fraud, which is growing and growing and growing in terms of evidence every day. Thank you.
So that's all right. I was supposed to get off earlier than I did, but I just couldn't not. That's the new argument. That's it. That is the Trump campaign and Trump himself making their argument for that. This is exactly what the judge saw yesterday, and the judge told him to go pound sand. I mean, literally, this is a replay. If we did the transcript yesterday, this is the same shit he was saying in court. This is absurd, and the dude is being paid $20,000 a day by MAGA hat wearers, not by Trump himself. It's all coming out of the funds for that. Of course, after Trump pays for, a new green at Bedminster or what have you, to make up for the lost subscriptions or the lost memberships at Mar-a-Lago once he loses the presidency. So, yeah. Good times. All right, I'm going to sign off and go back to work on Sexy Liberal stuff. So, sexyliberal.com/tour for tickets. I adore you guys. I will see you come the morning. This was a little more fluid today. A little more fluid. But we'll see how this actually works out over the next couple days. We'll see. But at the very least, tomorrow will be 4 o'clock because it's Thursday. 4 p.m. is our regular stream time on Thursdays. And then, and then off we go. And certification happens very shortly. The Georgia is either certified today or tomorrow. So that's going to be fun. That'll be a tweet storm. So anyways, cheers everybody. Take care. And I'll see you later. Bye everybody. Bye. See you later. I got to sign off. How do I do it? Oh, I do it like this. Bye. That's wonderful. And then there should be some music, I would think. There's some music. There we go.